So what's the real reason UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak decided to skip part of the D-Day celebrations in France? In this video, I explain all, but first, help support this channel by hitting the like and subscribe buttons below. Thanks. So on Friday, Rishi Sunak was in the news for all the wrong reasons. Having had to do the rounds with the British media the day before to explain a lie he told in the election debate on Wednesday, it seemed like the worst part was over for the embattled Prime Minister. But for some inexplicable reason, Rishi Sunak decided to skip the international part of the D-Day Remembrance event on Thursday to do an interview with broadcaster ITV, leaving ex-Prime Minister Lord Cameron to stand in his place with other international leaders. By Friday morning, Sunak's absence from the international D-Day event was all over the news, with right-wing media furious that he would do something so stupid. It's obvious, even to the common person on the street, that a UK Prime Minister should have stayed at the event rather than return to the UK to do a TV interview. In fact, the excuse the Prime Minister came up with for his error implies that his early departure from France was pre-planned. But why would the Prime Minister do such a thing? If you want to understand why, then you need to understand Rishi Sunak. And the thing you need to understand about Sunak is that he is a yes man, which is why Boris Johnson, when he was Prime Minister, replaced then-Chancellor Sajid Javid with Sunak in the first place. There were things Sajid Javid wasn't willing to agree to, so Boris brought in Sunak to carry out all his wishes. And Sunak has benefited from his role as Chancellor during this time, taking credit for ideas and schemes that probably weren't his but for which he became the public face of merely because of his position in the government at the time. It's also common knowledge that Sunak stabbed Boris Johnson in the back with his resignation letter just before Boris stepped down as Prime Minister. Was this Sunak's own personal choice, or were there people in the background pulling his strings? Nadine Dorries thinks so. According to Dorries, an ex-Tory Prime Minister with a lot of power and influence in the Conservative Party has been scheming behind the scenes influencing Sunak's decisions since he's been PM. It wasn't long after Dorries' revelations that Sunak appointed former Prime Minister David Cameron as Foreign Minister. So could the ex-Tory leader that Dorries referred to be Lord Cameron? Most likely. As David Cameron stood in for Prime Minister Sunak at the D-Day ceremony, then it's safe to assume he was briefed about his role as a stand-in beforehand, as Sunak had planned, weeks before, that he would be leaving the event early. Surely Cameron would have known what the optics of a UK Prime Minister leaving the D-Day ceremony early would look like. Why didn't he say anything? And what about Sunak's advisors? Didn't any of them have the good sense to tell him that he couldn't do what he ended up doing? It's likely Sunak's advisors also have loyalties to David Cameron as well, and they threw the Prime Minister under the bus with the full backing of Cameron. For me, there is no way this was just a silly error that wasn't at any stage of its conception and dissemination seen for what it was by all parties involved. If Rishi and his advisors were stupid enough to think departing the D-Day ceremony was a good idea, then surely it would have been called out by Cameron once he was asked to act as a stand-in. So why didn't Cameron say anything? Well, the short answer is because he's you can use any word of your choice. I'm sure Sunak queried the plan to leave the D-Day event early, but his yes-man personality that I mentioned earlier meant it was easy for his advisors to get him to go along with their plan. I wouldn't even be surprised if the advisors strung him along, making him believe it was his own idea to get Lord Cameron to stand in for him, probably mentioning other ministers before coming to a consensus that Cameron was the right person for the job, given his role as Foreign Minister and the fact he's a former Prime Minister. Some of you may be asking, what does David Cameron have to gain from all this? Truthfully, I don't know. The answer could be as simple as Cameron wanting to mingle and have a photo op with other world leaders. In fact, this might be the most reasonable explanation. It's Cameron that lobbied Sunak for the Foreign Minister position. He could have lobbied for any other role, but he chose that one because he still wants to be on the international stage. That's where he feels he belongs. So knowing that Sunak and the Conservative Party are dead men walking in the upcoming election on the 4th of July, why wouldn't Cameron throw little Rishi under the bus to get what he craves so dearly? One last chance to look prime ministerial on the world stage. That's my theory anyway, and it explains why Cameron didn't warn Sunak about the faux pas. However, one thing is clear. It's now obvious that David Cameron's answer to the question, if you know a man is going to drown, do you try to save him? Is an emphatic no. In fact, Cameron may be inclined to add some lead weights to this man struggling to keep his head above water. That's all, folks. Thanks for watching, and remember to help support this channel by hitting the like and subscribe buttons below. Till next time.